I think this is going to be a really important session for you. Have you ever thought that the first part of your swing is what's getting you off track? In today's session, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on what we should be doing in the first section of our motion called the takeaway and how that affects how we hit our shot. In today's session, we're going to be using the Unicore ceiling mounted launch monitor. We're going to use the Foresight just to double check our numbers, and we're using GS Pro as the software today on the screen. We are going to dive into the first section of our takeaway, which is really important if you're trying to beat 36, in our case, from level 2, 50 yards away. Even for those of you that are making full golf swings all the way back to the top, getting that first section correct is so important. Today we're going to start out with two, I think, of the worst images in your mind of what the takeaway should be, and then let's go into what it should be, or a better thought. The first one I hear quite often is a one-piece takeaway. Feeling that the club head, the arms, and the chest all move together in the takeaway. Sometimes I'll even see folks grab a medicine ball and say, hey, practice your takeaway where it's a one-piece motion as you go back. The challenge with that I see is that folks end up moving their upper axis off the golf ball. Remember, we talked about this a couple sessions ago where the upper axis is somewhere equidistant between our shoulders, equidistant between the front and the back of our body. Sometimes we use the head because it's a little bit simpler, but when we do our takeaway, we don't want that to be moving. We don't want it to be moving down. We certainly don't want it to be moving up. Ideally, the upper axis is staying pretty stable. What I see is when people try to do one-piece takeaway, they end up pulling their upper axis off the ball. And from a contact standpoint, when somebody does that, one piece, they end up hitting behind the ball. I hit probably 2 to 3 inches behind the ball on that one. I would not prescribe to a one-piece takeaway. I do not think that's the best way to do this. The other takeaway tip that I hear quite often is that the club should move straight back into the catcher's mitt. Those of you that have been with us for a while know that I like to use sticks in the ground to visualize how the club should move. As a reminder, we're playing clubs that are bent. They aren't straight up and down like a croquet mallet or a croquet stick. Our clubs are bent so that as we move this club on an angle, projected on the ground, it's going to be an arc. Let me bring back our tour aim blocks. We're going to put the stick in the ground at the wedge, 64 degrees. We're going to put one on each side. If this is a training aid you want, we'll put a link in the description below that you can grab for a little bit of a discount. I think these are super helpful to have. Let me find a third stick just to make sure that we're somewhat lined up here. Okay, if you recall, our goal when we move this club, we want to move it around our body in an arc based on the clubs we're using or the tool that we're using, which is a wedge. Every club we have is bent. Projected on the ground, it's an arc as long as we're moving it in an arc. Let me scoot these up a little bit because I'm a little bit off with my placement. All right, so I've got the sticks set up like we've had them before, somewhat close to the angle that the club I'm using. But ideally what we're trying to do is move this club in an arc around our body. If we move this thing in a straight line, that actually reduces our power such that we're going to have to swing this club a lot further if we're going in a straight line to get it to go anywhere. So that one went 10 yards. Let's see, if I'm going to hit this 50 yards and I have to go straight back, gosh, that's hard for me to even get enough power on the ball. That one went 23 yards. Imagine how much trouble a player is going to have if I'm having trouble from 50 yards getting it to go far enough swinging in a straight line. Whereas if I bring this club slightly in, it'll be much easier for me to hit the ball further. That one went 40 yards. As I bring the club in an arc, all the segments in my body can start moving in an arc to help me gain some speed. When I'm moving this thing in a straight line, back or straight back, all my body parts start moving in a straight line, and I can't create any power. And I know from 50 yards we're not talking about power, but we're starting to build the swing, 25, 50, 100 yards, that you would use in your full swing, and you want to be able to hit it far enough. Just like a kicker, I don't think I have a football in here, but just like a kicker in football or soccer, if I was going to kick this thing, I'm going to come at it from an angle. I'm not going to go straight on. I'm going to come from an angle, and then I can get my momentum coming in an arc. Angular force, angular momentum, angular speed to hit this thing versus coming straight on. We haven't gotten into the fundamental number 2, which is hit the ball far enough yet, but we're just starting to scratch the surface today when we're talking about the takeaway. One-piece takeaway moves the upper axis off the ball, which we don't want to do. That moves the club in a straight line as well. We also don't want to take the advice of move the club straight back, and most of the time that comes from maybe you see somebody take it way inside. Get a correct picture of what you're trying to do, and then do that. If we're trying to swing this club in an arc, as we go back, hit the ball, come back on an arc, do that. Don't try to go in a straight line as you go back. My best piece of advice for the takeaway piece is that this is a blend of movements. There is a little bit of the club head moves at the beginning. So that means the right wrist is bending just a little bit because it starts to go back. As the right wrist bends, the right forearm starts to fan. We call it fanning a bit. As it goes back, fanning. Left shoulder goes down, right shoulder goes up a little bit. The hips might even turn a bit. And the blending of all those movements allows my upper axis to stay stationary as I start to add these movements. And I'm building it up to then hit the ball. If you don't have all of these pieces blended correctly, to keep this super simple, if it's not blended correctly, and let's say you just bend your right wrist in the takeaway, and the club shoots to the inside, having a training aid like this can give you feedback. And then I would say the next step for you is trying to swing with these sticks, but also maybe find a coach. A coach can do a wonderful job of helping you problem solve what's going on as you go back to get the correct blend of movements to get this club to work back up and in the plane, back up and in. Previous session we talked about twisting the shaft and how we don't want to twist the shaft so the face is open. We don't want to twist the shaft so the face is closed to the shaft. We want the face, as it goes back, to not be straight up in the air, but maybe toed in ever so slightly. Some people like it to be right on the spine, which is fine. We just don't want the face pointed at the ground or the sky. I think this is a super helpful little session we did today. Somebody says one piece takeaway. Somebody says take the club straight back. You need more information. You need more detail. Get these sticks out. Hit some shots where your club doesn't hit this stick. That was a pretty good shot. Went 48 yards. I didn't hit the sticks. I think this is going to be a really important session for you. I hope you paid attention. If you want to watch it over again, I certainly invite you to watch it over again. If I was a dad out there watching this, I'd get some of these sticks. Get the Tour Aim system where you can set up the plane for your player and just have them hit shots. They don't have to be perfect, but give them an image, a picture of what they're supposed to do. And it's amazing when somebody gets a good picture of what they're supposed to do, how they gravitate towards the correct motion. When they have a bad picture from bad advice, one piece takeaway, take the club straight back. They're going to do it, and it's going to negatively affect them. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any comments, please leave them below. We'd be happy to respond to you. If you need even more help, we invite you to find a local Operation 36 coach near you.